I have what you've been waiting for. 3 hours of uninterrupted personal questions to deeply relax you. I've curated this mix especially for you. So, here's what to expect before you set off on the contemplative sea. The first hour focuses on deeper topics, then moves into an hour of self-exploration. Then takes you to half an hour of intimate questions for better small talk. And the final 45 minutes are hypotheticals. I will be extremely impressed if you answer every single one of these questions. Is that a challenge? It might be. I wish you all the comfort and peace on your question and answer journey. So let's set sail, shall we? I have 88, that's 88 deep questions to spur discussion. So, if you're standing in line at the grocery store, or you happen to pass a stranger, or you're at dinner and you don't want to talk about the weather or the comings and goings of whoever you know, just bring one of these questions on anybody. It's sure to prompt debate, most likely. They aren't easy questions. There are no right or wrong answers to them. They're designed to get you to think, to analyze, and to communicate. Because the only way to discover and to discern what it is you think and feel and stand for is to process it, to communicate it, to flesh it out. And that is what we will be doing today. 88 very deep discussion questions. Not for the faint of heart. Some may be a little provocative in certain ways. The first one. Yeah. Well, the first one is, do you think that we're all created equal? Or are we equal in some ways, but unequal in others? I'll give you a second to formulate. No rush. Whenever you are ready, I am here with a pencil and the trusty that wood board that loves to receive all of your answers. Is everyone equal? Or are we equal in some ways, but unequal in others? I see. Thank you. Do you think men and women have equal opportunities in life? Thank you for your honesty. Are people born talented? Or is talent something that's learned over time. Do human beings gravitate more toward good or evil? Do good and evil really exist? If so, where do they come from? And do they ever change? And if not, what does that mean when morals are imposed on others? Should we start with, do good and evil really exist? And if so, where do they come from? And if not, what does it mean when morals are imposed on others? Take your time. Do people really have souls? And what about animals? Do they have souls too? What part of you is a soul, and what part of you is something else? And what about animals? So what part of you is a soul, and what part of you is something else? Does any part of us exist forever. Can we ever be certain that what we are experiencing is really happening? Is free will real, or just a societal construct? If it is real, how do we ultimately make decisions? And if it's not real, how can anyone be held accountable for their actions? Is free will real, or just a societal construct? Let's start there. So if it is real, how do we ultimately make decisions? And if it's not real, how can we be held accountable for our actions? What's the difference between killing and murder? Is there one? Can obsession ever be a good thing? Or is it always destructive? What does faith mean to you? Is there a place for faith in modern society? And how would you define it? What does faith mean to you? Is there a place for faith in modern society? Do you think religion is compatible with science? If religion did not exist at all, what would the world look like? Are tribes, groups, and cliques a good way for people to find commonality? Or does it foster an us versus them mindset? Is it right for social media to censor certain opinions? And what should happen if those censored opinions turn out to be right in the future? And if the opinions turn out to be right? How has the internet changed the world for the better? How has the internet changed the world for the worst? How has it changed you? Do you think social media platforms should have the ability to track our location and share our data? Is surveillance bad if you are someone with nothing to hide? Does the instant connection brought about by technology actually bring us closer together? Is cryptocurrency the future, or is it just a trend? Is there a danger to society progressing too fast? Do you think death will be painful? What do you think will be going through your head just before your final breath? Do you think suicide is acceptable under certain circumstances? If euthanasia were made legal, how would that change society? Do you have a positive outlook about where society is headed? Or do you feel negative about it? How are we helping or hurting the human race as a whole right now? Should we start with helping? Or move to hurting? Your choice. What do you think the role of humans is on this planet? What are your thoughts on renewable energy? Do you think we'll be able to bring extinct animals back at some point in the future? What are your opinions on war? Do you think weapons of mass destruction protect humans or cause more damage to them? If there is a third world war, where will the main threat come from? And where will the lines be drawn? When war and famine come, the arts and entertainment are always the first to go. Do you think art has a place even when people are starving? Is a little insanity the price to pay for being a creative person? Do you think there's a disparity between the way we look at alcohol and caffeine versus the way we view other drugs like marijuana? As human beings, do you think we need more rules on what to do and what not to do? Should vaccines against diseases be mandatory? When are civil liberties more important than safety? What do you think is the root cause of homelessness? How would you solve the homeless problem in your country? Great ideas. What is accepted in the greater society right now that will be considered wrong in the future? There's a lot. What is your greatest fear, and where did it come from? Do you know if this fear is something you can work through? Has your personality been constructed slowly over your life, or was it something you were born with? Do you think your brain is on autopilot sometimes? If you could take memories out of your brain, which ones would you choose to remove? Are there any key changes you think you need to make in order to be the person that you want to be? Are you someone who generally puts a lot of effort into living your life? Or do you typically take the easy way out? Why? What's a core belief you have that you make decisions from? Do you ever worry that this core belief is wrong? Are actions or words more important when it comes to judging a person's character? Do opposites attract, or is that a myth? Do you ever see opposites attract in your family or your friends' relationships? Who annoys you the most? And why do you think that is? What gets you the most passionate about life? And why is that? Do you believe in miracles? How do you define miracles? What do you miss most from your childhood? What has been the most challenging goodbye you've had? I'm so sorry. Do you think all humans want freedom from typical day-to-day life? Are possessions good or bad? Where's the line between having too little or too much? Do you think the concept of the Matrix could be genuine? Will there ever be a time where we have peace on Earth? How do you react in an uncomfortable situation? What is the darkest thought you've had and never told anyone about? When was the last time you got jealous of something or somebody? Do you think flirting with someone is still cheating? What are your thoughts on staying friends with an ex? Do you think loyalty is essential in a relationship? What does sex mean to you? Do you think intimacy is the key to a happy relationship? What's a significant turnoff for you in any relationship? When do you think is the right time to have a baby? Would you want the ability to pick the gender and appearance of your baby? How important is family to you? Do you think that you have the same traits as your mother or father? Do you feel like it's easier to express love or hate? Which one takes up more of your energy? Do you think it's humanly possible to be a perfect person? What age are you most looking forward to next, and why? Does getting old scare you? And if so, what scares you about it? Do you think what a person wears accurately represents their personality? Why do we dream? What do you think of the theory that life is just a dream? We have just gone deeper than any man has ever gone before with these answers, and I am so honored to be here for every second of it. There's a lot to think about, isn't there? And the glory of living is that our thoughts and our opinions shift and change as the ages roll on by. It'll be interesting to see how we morph through the years. I'd like to disrupt your usual way of thinking today. Maybe unravel your deepest desires. Maybe mess around and uncover your true self. How does that sound to you? Because I have 111 questions designed to do just that. But they will only work if you are nice and comfortable, okay? You have to be open to them for them to do their thing. So just relax. Feeling nice and comfortable, safe, secure. And if anything triggers you with these questions, just sit with it. See if you can still answer the question. Observe the feeling that it brings up out of you. Are you ready? I will be telepathically typing your answers. It's something I had to learn how to do because I'm currently recovering from an injury. So while you might not see my fingers flying across the keys, you will be hearing keyboard sounds. Now, tell me, How often do you do things just for attention? We all need attention sometimes, right? Would you prefer to be manipulated or to be the manipulator? What did your previous partners always tell you to do more of? And what did your previous partners always tell you to do less of? Who do you look to blame when things go wrong? What is the one thing that people assume about you that you wish was true? What is the one thing people assume about you that you wish wasn't true? When was the last time you lied to protect your image? How often do you put on a happy face when you're not really feeling it? When do you think you began putting your guard up so much? Who made you feel most anxious when you were a kid? How do you speak about others when they're not around? What aspect of your life are you most delusional about? How often do you admit that you were wrong? Tell the truth. Which one of your biggest flaws do you like to rationalize the most? Is it your fear of commitment or your fear of intimacy that makes you shut down more? At what stage of a relationship are you most likely to withdraw emotionally? They're getting tough. These are going there. What is one compliment you always get that you're too embarrassed to accept, so you deflect it? What would your ex say is your worst habit? What is the one insecurity that you're pretty sure has some basis in reality? I can't see that one. When was the last time you felt really insecure about the parts of yourself you pretend don't exist? What's the most interesting white lie that you've told? They believed it. Do you ever feel like an imposter? I know the feeling. Do your friends know how competitive you are? Some people, they don't realize. What is the worst part about being in a relationship? What is the hardest part about dating nowadays? How about the hardest thing about being rejected? How do you deal when you know you're being irrationally jealous? How do you deal when you know someone's not willing to give you what you want? What is the weirdest thing you've ever wanted someone to do to you in bed? Are you ever afraid of people knowing who you really are? If you went to a therapist today, what would they say is holding you back the most? When was the last time you lowered your standards just to get someone else's approval? What do you like most about being a flirt? Is it fun using your sexuality to get what you want? You know anything about that? Is your need for revenge greater than your need for peace? Have you stopped trying to control things yet? Which parts of yourself do you still seek validation for? You're not alone. How do you cope with being unfairly ignored? Do you like punishing yourself for things that are out of your control? What did your coworker say was your biggest problem when communicating? Are you okay with not knowing what happens next? I'm not. Will you ever feel okay with being imperfect? Does sabotaging yourself give you an odd sense of comfort? How do you feel about being disliked by some people? Are you afraid of missing out on love? Because you're always looking for the next best thing. It's a lot to ponder. What's the strangest thing you've done just to avoid failure? What's the biggest risk you've taken just to prove yourself? What's the boldest thing you do every day just to feel like you're still in control? Boldest. What accusation would you defend yourself most fiercely against, even though you know it's true? What's the most toxic thing about yourself you actually secretly kind of like? How much do you enjoy being in control? When do you give yourself permission to lose control? What guilty pleasure are you currently justifying to yourself? is the most passive-aggressive way you've dealt with your rage? What is the pettiest and most immature way you've avoided losing face? What's the worst habit you have that rewards you the most? How do you get your needs met when you're alone? Are you more emotionally stable when you're single or in a relationship? What is the most ridiculous thing you've done to please people? What is the most ridiculous way you've rebelled? What's your favorite way to channel your aggression? What's the most shallow trait in a person you're willing to give up your standards for when you're dating someone? How do you cope with being betrayed? How quickly do you get over an ex, even if you remain friends with them? Are you okay with disliking someone? What is your favorite form of self-destruction? What's the one thing that you struggle most to manifest in your life? We've all got something. What's the one thing you manifest so easily? People are jealous of it. We've all got something. What's the most irrational reason you've ever had for disliking someone? What's the most taboo fantasy you've ever had? is one fear that you'd be ashamed of your friends knowing about? Which one of your deepest secrets do you think is the least common? What's the most irrational reason that you've liked someone? How do people normally know you have a crush on them? How do people normally find out you hate them? What is your go-to strategy to deflect criticism, even constructive criticism? How do you divert from someone calling you out on something you're afraid to own? What's the one thing you're afraid to own about yourself that others have already pointed out to you? What is one thing people always get wrong about you? What emotion motivates you the most when you're down? What emotion makes you want to give up? Are people shocked when you stand up for yourself? How often do you say yes to the things you really want to say yes to? How often do you say no to the things that make your skin crawl? What shallow aspects of a person do you focus on, even at the expense of seeing their true self? How far are you willing to go to maintain a even an unhealthy one. What lead this? What is the one thing you always do, not because you like it, but because you want someone's approval? What would be the one thing you'd be willing to give up just to be loved? What is the worst way someone's ever abandoned you? What is the worst way you've ever abandoned yourself? How do you entertain yourself when you're not around people? Are you happier alone because you enjoy being alone? Or because you prefer it to being surrounded by horrible people? What is the one trait you look for that tells you this person is compatible with you? What habit do you know you could quit, but you don't want to? What is your favorite strategy for avoiding difficult people? What is your favorite strategy for avoiding conflict? What is the weirdest thing that gets you angry? What is the weirdest thing that makes you sad? What do you love most about your sexuality? What do you hate most about your sexuality? What part of your sexuality do you repress the most? How often do you take responsibility for other people's crappy behavior? Which insecurity would shock people if they knew about it? What do you find yourself justifying to people, even when no justification is needed? When was the last time you tried to please someone who made you angry? What do people often tell you need to focus more on? What do people often tell you need to focus less on? What is the one thing that could make you happy, but you refuse to do it because you're afraid of what others would think? Thank you. I hope these provided insights that helped you uncover the truth, the deeper parts of yourself. And we're going to start with the dream version of you. The dream version of you. Alright? What does the dream version of you look like? It's a nice look. Who's in your community? How do you spend your time? Dream version. Could be anything that you want to dream. What hobbies do you invest your time in? And how do you make money in this dream version? What can you do to be of value to the world? What can you do to be of value to your family, your blood family, or your chosen family, or both? What are your core values? What fears hold you back from becoming the person you desire? How can you make your journey of self-discovery more of a priority? What do you fear would happen if you were unapologetically your true self? What makes you feel fulfilled in life? How can you do more of those things? What brings you joy? How does it make you feel when you can't be your true self? Who do you want to be in 5 years? What are the 3 words that best describe your character? Why do you resist change? What worries you? And how can you let go of your worries? How important is your physical, mental, and emotional health to you? Moving now into a series of questions that are focused on life purpose. When have you felt most fulfilled? If there were multiple instances, what was common to all of those experiences? What impact do you want to create in the world? What makes you feel most alive? What do you want to be remembered for? When you feel excited to wake up in the morning, what's on the agenda for the day? What is most important to you in life? What are you willing to struggle for? If you could fill your time in any way you'd like, what is it that you would fill your time with? What did you love to do as a child? What are your gifts? What energizes you? What's something nothing can stop you from doing? What makes you unique? What do you want to solve in your community or the world? Now moving into a series of questions focused on career and work. If you could have any job in the world, what would it be? What sounds more attractive to you? Building a career or working odd jobs? How do you define success? What do you value in work? If you couldn't fail, what kind of job would you chase? What's most important? Loving what you do, making the highest income, or both? Is your current job a job that you love? What are your career and work dreams? Does your current job or career path fulfill you or give you purpose? What's one step you can take today to get closer to your dream job? Do you value managing people? What kind of impact do you want to leave in the workplace? How much money do you want to make every year? What valuable skills do you have that people would pay you for? And now a series of questions on relationships. Do the people you spend the most time with have qualities and characteristics that you wish to portray? What is going well in your best relationship? And what can you improve? In any type of relationship, what do you value most? What qualities do you bring to a relationship? What's the most important lesson you learned from a past bad relationship? How about the most important lesson you learned from a past good relationship? How can you put more effort into connecting with the people around you? When was the last time you told a friend you loved them? What do you value most in a life partner? How do your closest relationships make you feel? What's more important to you? A few amazing relationships or many average relationships? What's working well in your friendships? not working well. What qualities do you value most in a friend? I feel like the relationship section really got deep, deeper than the other sections, but that's just my opinion. This series of self-discovery questions should be a great introduction into probing deep within and figuring out what it is you want. Are you living life on the surface? Could you go a little deeper? Could you open yourself up to seeking what you really want? That's what you came here to do. This questionnaire corner will be whispered, 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 whispered. And so we will begin with the first question, alright? If you could put a new word in the dictionary, what would it be? And what would be the definition? That's our first question. I'm gonna just incorporate that into my everyday conversations now. I'll tell them to come to you to find the definition. What is the most clever advertising you have ever seen? What is the most clever advertising you have ever seen? Come on. That is super clever. I wish I had thought of that. If I was an advertising agent, of course. Are there advertising agents? Advertising executive. Alright, what movie could you watch over and over without getting tired of? What movie could you watch over and over and over again without getting tired of? Shrek. It's the first thing that came to my mind for some reason. Yeah, I've never seen it. I'm gonna have to put that onto my to-watch list. What's a food that you refuse to eat? What is a food that you refuse to eat? I know you like the noms sometimes, so I try to incorporate the noms sometimes. What are some of your biggest pet peeves? What are some of your biggest pet peeves? Pencil noms. Halitosis. you know? What is one of the most random facts? Random facts that you know? Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Give me those random facts. Random facts. Impressive. Very impressive. What band are you embarrassed to admit that you listen to? What band are you embarrassed to admit that you listen to? What band are you embarrassed to admit that you listen to? What band are you so embarrassed to admit? No judgments here. What was one of your most gullible moments? What was one of your most gullible moments? Gullible, like you fell for something that you should have known was a falsity. What was one of your most gullible moments? Get out of town. I would have fallen for it too, probably. Okay, now. What is one of the craziest things that you've ever done? What is one of the craziest things that you've ever done? The craziest. What is one of the craziest things that you've ever done? Ever. Crazy. Crazy is in the eye of the perceiver, of course, but whatever you classify as crazy. Loco. Wow. If you could get a ticket to any event or show for free, what would you want to get a ticket to do? Get a ticket to any event or show for free. What would you want to get that free ticket to do? Free ticket to any event or show for free. Where do you want to get that free ticket to? Nice choice. Support all your choices. Who understands you better than anyone else? Who understands you better than anybody else? Who understands you, really understands you better than anybody else? Absolutely. Je ne sais quoi. What is something that you are proud to have learned lately? What is something that you are proud to have learned lately? What is something that you are proud to have learned lately? Something you are proud to have learned lately. I feel like that's pretty hard to learn, right? Impressive. I commend you. I commend you. I commend you. How do you think you have changed through the years? How do you think that you have changed through the years? How do you think that you have changed through the years? Yes, life is weird with all the phases, chapters, growth. Things you used to like in one phase you don't like in the next phase. You outgrow so many different people and places and situations. It's pretty crazy. It's really crazy. It's really crazy. What is your spirit animal? What is your spirit animal? What is your spirit animal? A frog. A worm. Octopus. It's a cool one. I think they can definitely shift through the different chapters of life too, right? As you grow. wish you were back in it. I'm really deep. Next one, right? Next one. What celebrity is overrated? What celebrity do you think is overrated? What celebrity is overrated? Which celebrity? Overrated. Mel Gibson. I'll stop feeding my answers. What is one of the funniest things that has happened to you in the last month? What is one of the funniest things that has happened to you in the last month? What is one of the things that has happened to you in the last month? No way. If you didn't swear by it, I don't think I would believe it. Crazy. Funny. Unexpected. If you had to choose a new name for yourself, what would it be? If you had to choose a new name for yourself, what would it be? If you had to choose a new name for yourself, what would it be? Jeez. What would it be? A new name, any name, pick a name. Ludwig. Ludwig Cheese. Cheese Ludwig. No, that's a nice name. What is something that you failed at? And did you learn any important lessons along the way? What is something that you failed at? And did you learn any important lessons along the way? Something you failed at. Did you learn any important lessons along the way? for sharing something so lovely with me. It's really nice to hear that. What incredibly common thing have you never done? What incredibly common thing have you never done? What incredibly common thing have you never done? Incredibly common, but you've never done it. What is it? Who is someone that you completely misjudged? 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 Santa Claus. Alright, good. I can see that. I can see it. I can see it. What was one of the funniest arguments that you've ever been in? What was one of the funniest arguments that you've ever been in? What is one of the funniest arguments that you've ever been in? That's good. It's really good. What is the most trouble that you've ever been in? What is the most trouble that you've ever been in? The most trouble. What is the most trouble? The most trouble. What is the most trouble that you've ever been in? And then what? Troublemaker, troublemaker, troublemaker. What is one thing your mom would be embarrassed to hear that you've done? What is one thing that your mom would be embarrassed to hear that you've done? I will never tell her that. Your secret is safe with me. I don't want her to feel embarrassed. Which celebrity would play you in a movie? Which celebrity would play you in a movie? That's incredible. You could do so many things. You could do so many things. Who is your most interesting teacher, good or bad? Who is your most interesting teacher, good or bad? What is a song that gets you motivated? What is a song that gets you motivated? Motivated. What is a song that gets you motivated? Who is that by? What is something funny that you think about from time to time? What is something funny that you think about from time to time? What is something funny that you think about from time to time? Something funny that you think about from time to time. That's a good one. I would think about that all the time if I was you. 44. That was exactly 44 questions. Wild. Did not plan that at all, but the angel numbers have found us again. Can I ask you a hypothetical question? What would you say if I said that I had 99 hypothetical questions right here, and that I would write down all of your answers in pencil? Also, I should mention that there is a button right there. It does something when you press it. You should find out. And tell me, what does yours do? Oh. If you could stop time just once in your life for an hour, when would you use it? If someone broke into your house, which item would you use to fend them off with? I didn't know you could keep that under your bed. Giving me ideas. Every day, 12 new items arrive to your house, and they all start with the same letter. Which letter would you choose? If your house had a theme song, what would it be? If you had to lose a room in your house, which room would you lose? Your options are living room, bathroom, bedroom, kitchen. If you owned a house in every country of the world, how do you think that would affect your life? Which national monument would you like installed in your back garden? It's a nice one. The horizon is the line between the land or sea and the sky, and it's horizontal, hence horizon. If everything became vertical, what would the horizon be called? If you were a lobster, do you think you would be baited into a lobster trap? Why or why not? If you had to guess, how many grains of sand do you think there are on an average beach? Would you know what to do if you were on vacation and lost your passport? If you were queen or king of the world and could make anyone rule, what would it be? Would the world be a better place if all leaders were women? In what ways would your life be different if you had another brother or sister? If you could make a piece of clothing that had any kind of special power, what power would you give it? And how would it affect you personally? If you could have a fictional character that followed you around and gave you advice, but was invisible to others, which fictional character would you choose? If you had to get a tattoo written across your forehead, what would it be? And what would you choose for me? Matching? Not matching. Let's start with you. What would you get tattooed across your forehead? And for me, I'm not going to go with you to any tattoo parlors soon. How would you handle a situation at work where you were asked to execute a task that went against your morals? If humanity was put on trial to defend its existence, what would be the best argument in favor of humanity? Save us. We made plastic. We need plastic. Just kidding. I have your answer. I'm writing it down. We love plastic. If humanity the near future, what animal would take our place as the preeminent species on Earth? Do you think there are still animals that we haven't discovered yet? And if so, how many? And how many? That's very specific. What do you think would happen if it never rained? What do you think would happen if all the trees died out? If someone left you a cottage somewhere in the countryside, in their will, where would you want the cottage to be located? That sounds beautiful. I'm visiting. You get one text, no more than 160 characters, delivered to everyone's phone. What does it say? How many computers do you think there are in the world? If you could try a job for just one day, and you knew exactly what you were doing, which job would you choose? Would you take a job for $44,000 a week if it meant that you had to sit in a pitch black room and do nothing for 20 hours a day? What would it be like to live somewhere that's dark for 24 hours a day? If you could add one thing to the sky, what would it be? If you became a secret graffiti artist, what new name would you give yourself? If you started to sing everything you say, would your life suddenly become a musical? If emotional love comes from the heart and a decision to love comes from the brain, What kind of love comes from the foot? If you could make all the decisions for one person for 1 week, who would you pick? And what would you have them do? What would you teach if you had no choice but to teach? What food would be the worst to be allergic to? If you eat a chicken breast, are you actually being breastfed? Do you think the world would be a better place without caffeine or alcohol? If you were tasked with redesigning the country's flag, how would you change it? At some point, you will reach the middle of your earthly life, and you won't know. How does that make you feel? If you could hear one sentence from the afterlife, what do you think you'd hear? If two eyes create an oval field of vision, what would eyes all over the head create? I love your answers. If you could get all your organs and body parts replaced, at what point would you stop being yourself? If you were teleported to the other side of the galaxy, would that person be you? Or just a copy of you? If it was found that humans originated on another planet, would that make us aliens or not? If you were the most powerful creator in existence, could you create creator more powerful than you? Fair enough. Who would you most like to get bone therapy, where the sufferer believes that they're a cow? What car would you turn into if you were a transformer? Sexy. Do you think you'd be able to pull a sock out of your mouth without using your hands or feet? You're walking through the woods when you come across a black suitcase. It contains $1 million and a blood-stained sheet of paper. Written on the blood-stained sheet of paper is the word "don't." Will you take the suitcase home, or will you leave it there? What would you do if you were home alone late at night and you heard footsteps? Would you panic or stay calm? If a tree falls in the woods and there's no one to hear it, does it still make a sound? If you were given the opportunity to go deeper in the ocean than anyone has ever gone before, would you take it? Would you go? If you had to get a tail, which tail would you get? And what would you use it for? What kind of dinosaurs would you clone if dinosaurs could be brought back to life? You are driving alone in your car on a wild, stormy night, and it is raining heavily. You pass 3 people waiting for the bus at a bus stop. What do you do? If humans lost the ability to see all colors but one, which color would you choose to survive? Would you increase your life satisfaction if it meant that your overall lifespan would be shorter? found out you were a clone, what would you do? Whatever you do for the next week will be erased from time and from the memory of everyone in existence. What do you do? What would you do if you learned you were living in a Truman Show type world where everything was fake and done for TV? If robots became sentient and seemed as real and alive as human beings, would you campaign for their equal rights? If, for every manufactured good photo on social media, you had to post a bad photo, how do you think that would change the landscape of social media? If no one was ever canceled for what they said or did on social media, how would that change the online culture of communication? If you started an activist group, what would its goals be? And what would you call it? What would you call it? If you had to prove you were human and not AI in a 5-minute text conversation, how would you do it? Crafty. If you could be an NPC in any video game, what would it be? What would the sign on your door say if you were a consultant? If you had to put all your money into one single asset, what would you choose? What would be the cutest, non-conventional military unit that would still serve as an effective fighting unit? Cute, but still able to fight effectively. If you could design a perfect planet, what would yours look like? Beautiful. I love it. How would our view of space change if the moon were actually made of cheese? Do you believe that if all land were connected, the world would be a better place? What would you tell someone if their underwear was showing? If you were required by law to get a full body tattoo, what full body tattoo would you get? Your entire body tattooed, yes. If happiness has a flavor, what does it taste like? What would the world be like if babies were born knowing everything we already know as adults? If you had to go live on national TV for 1 hour, what would you do or talk about? company or corporation disappear as if it never existed, which company or corporation would you choose? You pick up a book and start reading, only to discover it's a book of your life. Do you continue reading, knowing full well that you will be unable to change the events that transpire? Or do you put the book down? According to a fortune teller who has never been wrong, there's a big event that is about to transpire that will change your life. Do you know what the event is? If you had to be a monster for one night a month, which monster would you be? If adult humans were in the cocoon phase that butterflies have, then what would mature humans look like? If you built a secret bunker in your backyard, what would you keep in it? If you could go back in time and hands down win an argument that you had with someone, which argument would you choose? What does it mean to live a good life? Is there one definition, or does it vary by situation? If you knew when and how someone would die just by shaking their hands, but you couldn't do anything about it, how would you use this power? think your life would be like if you had a 300-year life expectancy? What would you say if someone took your VR headset off after you died and asked you how your virtual life went? What would you choose to smell if you could only smell one aroma other than your own scent, and this aroma everyone else also had to smell? If you discovered a new star, what would you name it? Lovely. If your brain was a room, what would it look like inside? If human beings were born with one item, which item would be yours? Cool. If you could choose your soulmate before you were born, who would you choose? I did not expect you to say Voldemort. Cute. If planet Earth was in a science fair, competing with other planets around the universe, what would be the best thing for planet Earth to showcase in order to win? Plastic. Just kidding. Nice. One day, someone will think of you for the last time, and then you'll be forgotten. Who do you think that person will be? And what will be the ultimate fate of the universe? Well, quite literally, these hypotheticals are done so. So, are you feeling nice and cozy? Nice and comfortable? Good. What was the best thing that happened to you today? The best thing. That does sound quite nice. And what are you most interested in that people aren't? Oh. Got it. What is your secret talent? Everybody has one. You look like you could do it. But I could see how maybe people don't know it immediately. What always cheers you up when you think about it? Right. What makes you roll your eyes every time you hear it? Rolling your eyes every time you hear it. I get tired of hearing that too. What are some unusual places you've been? Some unusual places that you've been. It can be exotic, it could be domestic, it could be in your mind. Unusual though. How about the craziest conversation you've overheard? Craziest conversation. Like, what is going on? What am I listening to? Oh, that's a weird one. When's the last time you played it cool, but you were going crazy inside? Last time you played it cool, but you were going crazy inside. Played it cool, going crazy. I don't think I'd be able to keep cool for that. No, all of me would be going crazy. What's the longest rabbit hole you've ever been down? Longest rabbit hole ever been down. Longest rabbit hole. Conspiracy theories, maybe. UFOs. It's always the really niche conspiracy theories, isn't it? What game have you spent the most hours playing? What game? Most hours. Just losing track of time. It's a good one. The Sims would always suck me in. What invention tends to be overlooked, but has greatly improved the world? Invention overlooked, but improved the world. Zumba. Zumba, Roomba. Roomba, is that what it's called? The little disc that cleans the floor. What do you think? Best invention, overlooked, great improvement. Paper. What is the funniest name you've heard of someone having? When was the most inappropriate time you burst out laughing? Most inappropriate. You should not have been laughing. Why did you start laughing then? What goal do you think humanity is not focused on achieving? What goal should they focus harder on to achieve? I could agree with you on that, and on most things. What habit do you have now that you wish you started earlier in your life? What habit do you have now that you wish you started earlier? Good habit. Hey, it's me. You have reached the end of our 3-hour question extravaganza.